Lately, I've come to a realization. Playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Kinda sucks. And I don't mean it in a this format sucks kind of way. No, I mean that playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Has often been a downright miserable experience. Getting comboed on for what feels like an eternity is pretty standard. The opponent passing a board full of a million negates? That's old news. Decks that mock the concept of your turn? All within expectation. At least they'll give me a swift death, right? Right? But hey, not all decks are combo decks, which is a valid point. So instead of getting comboed on for eternity, I can face some BS like this. I'm obviously exaggerating a bit, just a bit. I get that at high levels of play, there's a lot of nuance to the game, with skill truly being put to the test. And even at casual levels, there's a certain thrill in being the aggressor, watching hope drain from your opponent's eyes as you effortlessly steamroll them with your pet deck. But a lot of times, I'm just relieved that I've been spared the humiliation. This time. So why do I play this supposedly miserable game? Why not go play some of the other TCGs in search of greener pastures? Well, actually, that's exactly what I did. And while I enjoyed my time with these other games, I find myself being pulled back into Yu-Gi-Oh! It turns out Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really good at some things, arguably some even better than its competitors. So, why Yu-Gi-Oh? What more is there to say? A lot of us grew up on Yu-Gi-Oh! Either by watching the anime, collecting the cards, or dueling with friends on the playground after school. Back when Yu-Gi-Oh! Was introduced, there was something immediately appealing to me as a kid. The premise of summoning powerful monsters and casting magical spells for battle appealed to my childlike sense of wonder. The show in particular sparked my imagination by giving life to the cards I've been collecting. With iconic moments like Kaiba summoning all 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, or Yugi gathering all 5 pieces of Exodia to obliterate. Playing the card game became an opportunity to step into a realm of extraordinary possibilities where even I could become a cool protagonist. For many of us, I bet these experiences playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Hold a special place in our hearts as they represent a cherished part of our childhoods. And as we grow older, these fond memories continue to draw us into the game to this day. I could stop the video here and it'd probably explain why so many players just tolerate being abused by this game. However, it doesn't explain what Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically offers over other similar hobbies. Or did it? I believe Yu-Gi-Oh! Is fundamentally a game about tapping into our power fantasies. The game's original premise, where you summon powerful dragons, warriors, and wizards for battle, has an undeniable appeal to many of our childhood fascinations with power and desire to be cool. Especially for those who watched the anime, there's likely a favorite moment we wanted to relive due to the sheer spectacle and awesomeness of it all. For me, I vividly remember catching the latest episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Professor Cobra was threatening Jaden with a deadly venom strategy that would instantly end the duel just like Exodia did with Kaiba. But against all odds, Jaden pulled out, not 1, but 2 Neospacians to triple contact fuse into Magma Neos, landing the decisive blow for victory. I remember my kid brain absolutely losing it at this moment, and vowing to recreate this moment on the playground. Motivated by this desire, I bought way too many packs of a set that wasn't even that great, built a deck with some really jank baby alien cocoons, suffered many losses against far better decks, but it was all worth it because one day I pulled it off. Activate Cocoon Party to summon Chrysalis Larva, tribute Chrysalis Larva to special summon Neospacian Flare Scarab, activate Common Soul, targeting Flare Scarab to special summon Grand Mole, then tribute summon Elemental Hero Neos, to finally triple contact fuse to summon Magma Neos to attack for game. The rush I felt at that moment, I couldn't even begin to describe how amazing it felt. It didn't matter whether this combo was any good, but it had everything to do with reliving a power fantasy. Fast forward 18 years, I'm still chasing that rush. Building cool decks, practicing cool combos, and trying to live out cool power fantasies on the tabletop against friends. There's an undeniable thrill that comes from executing a well-planned combo, watching your strategy unfold before you, exactly as intended. and I bet Konami is aware of this. With every new set, Konami releases even more unique playstyles, even more complicated combos to master, and even more degenerate strategies to steamroll your opponent. Every Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype has its own associated fantasy, and the decks built around these fantasies, in their own right, have a winning game plan that, if left to their own devices, can unfold into a devastating onslaught for the opponent. The field is not merely a site of battle, but a stage for your deck to spread its wings and showcase its full potential. You can string a sequence of card effects into a meticulously choreographed routine, culminating in an impenetrable board. You can engage in a duet of tit-for-tat, skillfully maneuvering around your opponent with deadly precision. Or you could overwhelm your opponent with such savage force that they have no choice but to concede. Your turn is your time in the spotlight to demonstrate the prowess of your deck. Perhaps Yu-Gi-Oh! Evolved to fully embrace the power fantasy of the game. With the dreadfully long combos, convoluted strategies, and regular power creep, the feeling of playing something so broken compared to what has come before may be a core tenet of the game. Of course, victory isn't guaranteed. The losses in this game feel terrible, and the feeling of being left in the dust playing older archetypes is real. But in the moments where everything aligns, all your planning, practice, expertise, and luck converge. Playing on a stage solely dedicated to you creates an unparalleled exhilaration that has seldom been recreated by Yu-Gi-Oh's competitors. But this is far from Yu-Gi-Oh's only appeal. Compared to other card games based on popular IP, or a pre-existing genre of fiction, aka fantasy, Yu-Gi-Oh! Seems to be a game that decided to throw anything at the wall to see what sticks with regards to theming. As a result, Yu-Gi-Oh! Offers a staggering array of themed archetypes based on an equally impressive variety of inspirations in history, religion, and pop culture. Just look at what we got in the past year. We got the Nouvelle based on French cuisine and a familiar hungry burger. Purely, a fairy dog that just wants to be loved and to eat everything. The Rescue Ace, fire engines that are themselves fire-typed for some reason. The Malaria, a dreaming girl whose appetite for sweets conjures up dessert monsters. Centurion, an archetype straight out of Studio Trigger's portfolio. And Transcendosaurus, basically dinosaurs on steroids. And many, many more. Popular legacy archetypes will continue to receive support, like Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, and Heroes. New archetypes will continue to adapt and evolve to suit new tastes with shifting cultural trends, like Exosisters with Yuri Fiction, or VTubing culture with the Evil Twins. And Konami will continue to throw us curveballs out of nowhere, like the migration pattern of the Arctic Tern in the Flandres, or a whole thesis on the demise and rebirth of Western theater through the Despia. Yu-Gi-Oh! As a card game has been doing this for 25 years at the time of writing, so it seems fair to say that if you can think of it, there's probably an archetype for it. But what's really cool about all of this is that these themes aren't just some pretty packaging. The designers actually put in a fair amount of effort to have the playstyles capture the fiction of these themes. Which brings me to the next point. There's this Pokemon meme I saw online a while back. What they saw, what we saw. It depicted the contrast between what it looked like playing Pokemon versus what our imaginations conjured up playing the game. While the first Pokemon game was iconic and a technical marvel for its time, by today's standards, it's a pretty unimpressive looking game. However, despite the game's many shortcomings, what I remember of the game aren't these limitations. Instead, it's this image of engaging in epic battles, flying around the world, and becoming the very best. Over the years, this meme has stuck with me, serving as my core belief regarding game development. So, ludonarrative harmony is when the game mechanics and narrative synergize to elevate the immersion of a play experience. Or the way I see it, it's when the game gets me to imagine. And you know what? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is pretty amazing at doing this. For example, when I'm playing Sky Striker, the control-style game of out-resourcing my opponent with precise counters, in my mind, plays out as becoming a highly trained mech pilot, or teenage girl, maneuvering around every obstacle my opponent throws at me. I can feel like a tactical genius as I utilize my large arsenal of weapons tech and adapt to the changing tide of battle by swapping between power armor best suited for the situation. The way the game also utilizes the game's rule sets to add meaning to actions is also impressive. As showcased with Exosisters, when playing Exosisters designed as a powerful counter against graveyard-reliant decks, I imagine deploying a pair of Catholic schoolgirls in a dangerous, unknown territory. But despite their seemingly fragile appearance, the moment anyone desecrates the grave and crosses the boundary between the living and the dead, the sisters go full magical girl transformation to beat the ever-living shit out of these wretched fiends, zombies, or mermaids. Especially the mermaids. Sometimes, the abilities of a card can just immediately be felt by the impact they have on the game. Take Zeus for example. This card screams epic from its name, card art, effect, and gameplay impact. The way Zeus's effect effortlessly wipes the board of all threats. Tell me that you didn't imagine a badass mech firing a powerful energy beam throughout the field, disintegrating everything that passes its path. And these are just a few examples in the game. With as many archetypes there are, each with their own fiction, it's obvious that the designers are putting a lot of thought into weaving the game mechanics seamlessly into the fiction of each archetype. And thanks to them, even though all these cards are merely pieces of cardboard with pretty pictures moving around a tabletop, to us Yu-Gi-Oh players, we see and feel so much more than that. Each card we get to play is a character, each play we make tells a story, and every game, we're immersing ourselves into the fiction of our decks, living out the fantasy of our archetypes. I'm sure most of us Yu-Gi-Oh fans have seen the 25th anniversary animation promo Konami released, featuring so many popular archetypes over the game's history. It was a perfect showcase combining nostalgic throwbacks, callouts to epic plays in the game's competitive history, a display of the vast variety of archetypes the game has to offer, and the recreation of all these iconic moments that used to only exist in our imaginations, fully animated and realized in front of our eyes. I'm not sure about the rest of you, but every time I watch this, I feel emotions swell up, along with all the memories I've created, playing this absolutely miserable game that I love regardless.